Come down. Ooh, you make my high come down. Always tripping when you come around. Never have to cut you out like right now. You see, I don't have to drive me. You can say that for your mama. Maybe you should smoke some. Me try the marijuana. I was never you good. The vibe was straight. Showed you a couple of things and they feel strange. I treated you right. Everything was a gift from a time to your bag and the color on your lip.
Welcome to the Seahawks Man to Man podcast, powered by Blue Wire. Shout out to the new company. My name is Michael-Shawn and You guys can follow me on whatever Elon Musk is calling that app these days. My @ name has not changed, at Mike Dugar, MikeDugar. I did the blue sky thing. I got a couple posts. We'll see how it goes. I did it for y'all. All right. Make sure you follow us on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube channel. All of the stuff is Seahawks Man to Man. That's man, the number 2 man. Appreciate the love and support on there. Liking, sharing, subscribing, whatever buttons you need to press on there. Please do. Thank you. Chris, go ahead and talk to him.
What is going on, everybody? It's your boy Christopher Kid. You can follow me on Twitter and Blue Sky at CKid206, and that's CKIDD206.
All right. Do you put? I don't follow anyone on Blue Sky. Do you post on there?
Yes. What? Yeah. I'm not on there.
Over there?
I'm Mike. I am slowly but surely thinking about deleting Twitter. I think if I get to 1,000 followers on Twitter on Blue Sky, I'm gonna just delete Twitter probably and just be like, I'll be on Blue Sky from here on out.
All right, that's good. I'm trying to get the hang of it, man. It's just a lot. It's just a lot.
It is weird knowing that you have to. I just copy and paste my tweets to Blue Sky. I know that takes another second or two to do it, but that's what I've been doing.
Yeah, I was gonna do that. Maybe I will. We'll see. I know I sound just super old right now. Anyway, this is our 2-part show, midweek episode. We do Chris and I have watched the film a 3rd week in a row where the film is of a win. We are on a roll. Shout out to the Seahawks. They beat the Jets this week, so watch the film. We'll each do our one big thing after that on the back end of the show, as you can see by the title. Or the description of the show. We will talk to the homie Theo Mackie, covers the Arizona Cardinals for the Arizona Republic. He'll dive into some insight on the rematch. But before we get to that, let's talk about what we diagnosed from watching the all 22 and everything of the Seahawks 26-21 win over the Jets. Who's going first this week, Chris?
I mean, you got the floor. Go ahead, man.
Yeah, okay. Let's set it off. All right, that's fine. My one big thing this week is Mike Macdonald. Oh yeah, congrats to him and his wife. They're having a baby this week. That's great. By the time this comes out, the baby will probably already be here. Good for him and his wife, Stephanie. Anyway, my one big thing this week is Mike Macdonald as a schemer and as a play caller. You know, I mentioned this a little bit on the post-game show. But what's really stood out these last few weeks is how often guys in the locker room, I talked to Ernest Jones about this quite a bit last Wednesday, is they keep talking about how Mike is really putting them in positions to succeed. They just feel a lot more prepared than the offense. Like there's a ton of examples, but there's just so many plays that have been made that are almost a direct result of Mike calling the right play or telling his guys, like based on like Tuesday or Wednesday or Thursday when they do the installs, like, yo, when they get in 3rd and 4 at this yard line, at this hash, they like to run this. So here we go. Like there's been so much of that has the defense playing so well. I mean, you could see it in how they play too, but I wanted to take it a step further and highlight what the guys have been telling me. And there were some instances this week that were just very clear. Let me pull up my notes here. Some of the biggest plays in the game. This one, so like Leonard's pick 6. Actually, no, let's go to Leonard's sack that got wiped away by I think it was a face mask on Leonard, which was kind of some incidental contact because Aaron Rodgers dropped his head. But like that one's 3rd and 13. It looks like they're showing pressure, and then they end up dropping 8. Like the Seahawks very rarely were dropping 8 before. I feel like they were doing a little bit, but they dropped 8 and they're still getting pressure. Like I feel like this game was a lot of that. And like you could just see it all over the defensive film where it was Aaron Rodgers thinking he had pressure because of the look, and then it only being like 3 rushers or 4 rushers or whatever, and then him either just eating the sack or making a bad decision with the ball. And you can see And that's not an accident. Like, that's what Mike Macdonald was doing in Buffalo. Or excuse me, Baltimore. I don't know how I goofed that up. That's what he was doing in Baltimore. He was creating almost this like illusion of pressure. It wasn't that he was just blitzing a bunch. He wasn't Wink Martindale or Vance Joseph or Todd Bowles, Rex Ryan. Like, these guys were just like, send the wolves. Like, I think I even tweeted, and I'll get to this play as well. I even tweeted on the 4th and 15, the end of the game, that Mike Macdonald just said F it and sent the wolves. I was talking to Ernest Jones about that after the game. He was like, no, go back and watch the film. So I think I asked him, like, yo, cover 0, that was ballsy. Ernest was like, go watch. You'll see. That was a crazy play. And he wouldn't tell me what I was supposed to be looking for. He still hasn't told me. I told him I'd talk to him Wednesday after I watched the film. But like, I went back and looked, and I was like, yo, that really wasn't the normal cover 0. That was like a 4-man rush. That was like, but Aaron Rodgers made it think it was pressure. He threw it hot like it was pressure. Like on a 3rd and 13, he ends up eating a sack. It gets wiped off, but like that type of play, like Aaron Rodgers almost Kirk Cousins-y folding under pressure of a 3-man rush was crazy. The pick 6 is a very similar thing. They show cover 0, like everyone's at the line except for like I think Rayshawn ends up taking the running back. Reek ends up taking Tyler Conklin. I think he ends up falling down too. Love is on Devontae Adams. Kobe's on Garrett Wilson where the ball goes. And then Job's on 82. I think his last name's Gibson. But it looks like, all right, cool. There's some pressure coming. So I got to throw hot. It's 3rd and 7 from the 9. It turns out to be like a variation of cover 0. And cover 0 meaning like, all right, there's no help. Everyone's just manned up. We're sending the Wolves at the quarterback. Instead of it being just that, though, I think it still covers 0. But what happens is Leo and Jay Reed drop out. So now like we're zeroed on the back end, but we're still protecting against the quick throws, which is exactly what it was. Leo jumps into the little landmark, the little hook zone, boom, takes the ball. One of the most athletic plays you'll see from a big dude. But that was like one of those illusion of pressures. And their game is the last few games have had so many of those. Chris has talked about all season how Mike loves the double corner blitz. I don't know if I saw it this week, now that I mention it. I have to really go back and dive. But Mike, I think, is really locked in on doing the stuff from Baltimore. The sending the heat, and heat not just necessarily mean blitzing, but getting pressure affecting the quarterback while still protecting his guys on the back end. Because I do think it's very reckless to just be like, let's zero them up, or just run a bunch of what is it on Madden? Is it Engage 8? Is that what it's called? Yeah. Like, you can't just, that's how I play Madden, because I'm impatient. And I suck at Madden. But like, you can't live in that world. That's very, very dangerous. And you see teams live in that, and then eventually that coordinator ends up getting fired because they're giving up explosives all the damn time. You just can't live like that. You look at the 4th and 15. I thought it was another really great example, another big play. Now it's 4th and 1,000,000. You can kind of run whatever you want, but it looked like 0. Like, it looks like it. Everyone's up, I think, and then everyone's playing. All the corners are playing off. Reek's playing off. Job's playing off. Spoon's playing off, like way off. And everyone's mugged up with, I think, Ernest and Rayshawn are like right behind the line, basically your backers. If I'm Aaron Rodgers, I'm thinking, oh, they're coming. Here comes the heat. Nope. That was like a 4-man rush. Kobe came. Boye came. I think D Hall, and that might have been it. Maybe one other player. But it's basically 3-man or 4-man rush, and they still get home. And you got the quarterback throwing like it's hot. Aaron Rodgers, I think Kobe ends up beating the running back, whoever that dude was, ends up beating him, and he throws a really bad ball at Garrett Wilson. That's not even close. But I think that is the Mike. That's like when players say Mike Macdonald's in his bag, and I wrote about that a little this week. We're seeing it, and hearing the guys talk about the methodology behind it, or how often that's happening, has been really encouraging to hear and see. Where someone like Ernest is just like, dog, like he has us so locked in, where we know based on this, and that this is going to happen. And Spoon even has mentioned it a little bit too, though I haven't got to talk to him one-on-one about it. But the guys I talked to Byron Murphy about it. He's just like, we just know every week, like when they get in this, it's probably a run this way, and they're probably going to slide the protection this way based on what Mike told us on Tuesday. I'm like, yo, okay, this dude is really coming together. Now, obviously, that's just the job of the coach, duh. But when you pair that with the way he's getting pressure without having to put the entire coverage unit in jeopardy is really cool, because then you're getting the best of both worlds. Because, Chris, we've seen the Seahawks used to be very much a bend, don't break. Like, yeah, you can get down near the red zone, but we're just going to tighten up. We won't allow no points. Ken Norton's defense was kind of like that. And then we see other defenses, maybe not perhaps the Seahawks, but around the league, where they're just like, all right, they send pressure. They're just sending heat. Mike has found a good way, which he was doing at Baltimore, to blend the two. Like, I'm going to play cover 0, but really, I have protections built in. I'm defending against the quick stuff, I'm defending against the deep stuff, and it just makes it really hard on even the veteran quarterbacks. That's what stood out on Sunday, really. It was that Aaron Rodgers got. Aaron is 57 years old, and he's seen every coverage, every blitz, every scheme, and even he was getting got. And I thought that was really, really impressive. I wasn't in there for the press conferences on Sunday because I was in the locker room. But even like there was before Leonard's sack on 3rd down to end the game, Julian Love blew up a screen for no gain. And then hearing Julian talk about it was like super. I was like, yo, this dude, Mike Macdonald, really has them locked in. And so here is Julian Love, like talking about what Mike Macdonald did on that particular play, or like how they were kind of using their scheme and their knowledge of how they were going to respond to pressure to making a big play.
I'll give credit to Mike. Aaron felt pressure. Thankfully, I was rolling down, saw the back, try to slip out, and just made a play. I'll give it all credit to the play call, and just me just had to be in the right place and just make a tackle.
On the 2nd and 10 play, just before Leonard's sack, when they dumped the ball up in the middle and you ran up and dropped him for no gain, talk about what you saw on that play.
We were sending up pressure there. Rodgers can see all pressures and everything, and he ID'd it. The back slipped out, and I was just coming down a hill and just had to make a tackle, me and him, and just create a tackle for loss or a no gain. So yeah, a great play call. Obviously, kind of baiting Rodgers into dump that down and just made a tackle.
Yeah, see, Chris, when they're out here baiting Rodgers into check down screens in the 4th quarter, like I'm hype. I'm ready to get out there. Well, I can't get out there. I'm old. But like that's got me fired up. Because that's why they hired Mike. I talked about this on the post game show too. When you just hire a guy, you just want to see the stuff that you were advertised as to show up, and it's showing up. Took a little time, some personnel changes, yada yada yada, but it's showing up. And on a simple play like that's a huge play. Like if that screen hits, if J Love's not moving in the right way, like getting ahead of it, that breaks for a bigger gain. It makes Leonard can't get the 3rd down sack. Like it's just a great call, like J Love said. But the fact that they were able to, kind of bait him into something and blow it up, like it just, because that was basically not even really pressure. Tyrese Knight rushed. It was a sim pressure. They just dropped in and looked like normal cover 3. Like it was very simple. But Rodgers had got. They were getting Rodgers all afternoon, which is kind of what I'm getting at. And then like Kobe on the blitz on that 4th and 15, like Kobe had blitzed like 4 times all season, I think 3 maybe. And he just pulls that out of the hat with the game on. Yeah, man, the way the preparation stuff obviously is important, and the players, I like that they've mentioned that, but then to see it as well come to life on Sundays against all types of quarterbacks, Brock, Kyler, even Stafford, they got him a few times too, but Aaron Rodgers getting him, because Aaron Rodgers, as you guys could see on Sunday, is a very much I'm going to get you type of guy, whether it's the hard count or sometimes he just gets to the line and is like, oh, this is open, slant to Devontae, or oh, this is right here. Forget the play call. Hey, Devontae, run a go. I'm going to throw it to you. Like he definitely operates on he's into the chess match, and Mike Macdonald is winning the chess match every week right now. He is winning it. I think he lost it against McVay. It came down to the last little chess move, but it was close. But these last few weeks, he has definitely won. Shanahan, forget the Arizona coordinator's name, Aaron Rodgers, like he's winning it, and that's Chris been really impressive. And it just stood out from talking to the guys and from watching the film. You're just seeing it come to life. And if there is a reason to be optimistic, maybe not this season, if they're not going to win the Super Bowl or anything, I don't think, but just that they got maybe the right guy, is because this is still an audition for Mike and the fan base, or to the fan base and everyone else. These are the signs of that, the leadership and stuff. That's obviously important, but on the field too, it's like, hey man, we hired you so our defense is nasty. So can you make the defense nasty? And the answer is yes. Like right now, they're playing. They have since the bye week, they have the best EPA per play in the league. They're like third in points allowed or something like that. Like they're killing it right now. And I think a lot of that in this game in particular, you could attribute to Mike putting guys in position to make plays, and you could see it from J Love to Tyrese to Kobe to Ernest or whoever. Like Leo was like the pick six is such a great example. He was legit just put in position. He was like Mike was like, just drop here and the ball will come to you. And it came to him. Like, it's just perfect stuff. So yeah, my one big thing, Mike Macdonald, man, he is in his bag. And these are some of the examples of how that's showing up. And we could do the whole show on this. Maybe I'll do my standout plays and some other examples, but Mike Macdonald is really showing up during the week. He's getting what he's teaching them during the week to show up on Sundays, which, as we've talked about on this show, is the number one thing you want from a coach. Monday through Saturday needs to translate to Sunday. If that does, you'll be in the NFL for a long time. If it doesn't, you just stand next to Matt Eberflus and Robert Saleh and whoever else has already been fired. So shout out to Mike Macdonald. He my one big thing for whatever week we're in.
Well, I am doubling down with the offensive line, as last week I went offensive line for my one big thing and surprised Mike. Although, yes, we talk about it, Mike didn't know it was going to be focusing in on the run game that is still struggling. So this week, I decided to break it into 3 parts. It'll be penalties, the sacks, and execution. So after watching the tape, I realized, oh my goodness, there wasn't a lot of penalties on the offense. They were really committed to playing clean football, and they did a really good job of that. They only had 2 offensive penalties, which is got to give it up to those boys. That's huge. Only 2 offensive penalties. You want none, but they're on the road. Okay, I hear you. The first one was holding on Abe Lucas. It was clear as day, and unfortunately, that wiped away Ken Walker's biggest run of that game for 27 yards. It was a huge play. And in my head, when I saw it live, negative Nancy here, I was like, there's no way that hole was that clean. Who was holding? No shock at all. Yellow flag pops up on the screen. Abe Lucas, number 72, holding. So I was like, darn, that stinks. But after that, you have a false start by the rookie right guard, Setawa Lumea. I hope I'm saying that name right. My goodness, I should have looked at the pronunciation, but Anywho, number 63. We all know him out there. He had 1 false start, moving back 5 yards. And then, as I mentioned, they played a really clean football game offensively. And that is something that they can build upon. It's another road game, right? You have back-to-back weeks where you're playing on the road. So you played on the road against the Jets, and the following go up against the Cardinals. Okay, so let's eliminate the false start. Holding, hey, someone beats you, you don't want your running back getting destroyed, you don't want your quarterback getting hurt. I understood that. So in this scenario, let's see if they can minus that and just have one penalty on offense, 1 negative play. And even then, that's an improvement upon this previous week. So that was the first thing that stood out to me. Wow, clean game, solid job. Pressure-wise, I thought the Seahawks did a decent job. They only gave up 3 sacks. Speed rusher Will McDonald beat Charles Cross and Abe Lucas for sacks in the game against the Jets. And that is actually something we talked about with Zach Rosenblatt. Hey, Will McDonald coming in had the highest pressure rate on the Jets coming into this game against the Seahawks. And Zach mentioned, he's not going to beat you with power or anything, but he's a speedster. And on both of those sacks, he gets good hands on Abe Lucas, really kind of pushes him back and then kind of runs around and is able to sack Geno. And then on the sack on the blind side versus Charles Cross, he just beats him. And that is the Jets' best pass rusher going up against the Seahawks' best right tackle and left tackle, respectively, and they both lose. I'm okay with it. I mean, it's not great, obviously. You'd want your quarterback not getting sacked, but there are times where their best player wins, and in that situation, their best player did win. And then on the last sack, we all know that one very famously. The Seahawks come out, they have trips to the left, they're rolling out to pass to the left, and the Jets bring the house. They blitz, I want to say 6 guys, and it's just too many people. The rollout don't work. Geno tries to make something, and linebacker number 56, Quincy Williams, is able to make the tackle for the loss. So as you can see, it wasn't a terrible game. As I mentioned, offensive line, penalty-wise, they were solid. Only 2 offensive penalties. Okay, cool. Then you go to the sacks. Only gave up 3 sacks. Pressures, not terrible. They weren't. Geno had a. If you guys remember during that game, Geno was dropping back and was tap dancing, looking for someone to get open. That's because the Jets had 7 people in cover, or not 7. Yeah, they had 7 people in coverage a lot of times, and there was just nothing open with 3 wide receivers running deep routes down the field. It kind of looked like something Mike and I discussed with Shane Waldron. I don't know how many times after post game shows where we would be like, "Yo, it's 1st and 10, and everybody is 30 yards down the field. There's nothing underneath for Geno to attack. Everybody's far downfield, and the offensive line was far worse than it was in this scenario at that time last season in regards to Geno looking for guys down the field when there's no one open. Geno was able to make extended plays using his legs, kind of what we saw against the Cardinals as well. So that's one thing that also stood out to me from the Seahawks game against the Jets. And then finally, it's just about execution. That's something that Mike and I have been talking about all season is, man, if this player does this, if that player were to do this, the run game would be bang, bang. Again, it starts with Ken Walker trusting the play call before it even happens. Because again, when Mike talked about the 4th and 1 where Ken's chopping his feet, hey, Ken, just hit the hole, man. This might have been a conversation that Mike and I had off wax. So with that being said, Ken, hit that hole and get in the end zone. There was no excuse for the Seahawks to be gifted a 1st and goal on a pass interference for looking for DK. Geno looking for DK on a corner route. And I believe the Clark is the safety number 26. Clark ends up just getting there a little early. I thought it was bang, bang, whatever. I'm not here to debate flags or not, but the Seahawks were gifted that 1st and goal on the 1. And for them not to score a touchdown that's pretty bad. But I do want to look at other plays throughout the game against the Jets where I said, that looked really good. There was some promise there. First one that came to my mind when I'm watching the film, like, wow, that was a really cool play. You guys know I mentioned, hey, Ryan Grubb, you got to get creative in getting Ken the ball. I like this. Now, the crazy part is I'm willing to bet that Ryan Grubb will probably never run this play again. And I don't know why, because if executed, it could be a touchdown, it could be a big explosive, and it could just keep defenses honest. You just show them something new, give them a little eye candy, and you see what happens. So the first one, they did a jet sweep pass to Ken Walker. Now, usually when they send Ken Walker in motion, it's probably a play action pass, a play action deep shot. On this one, it wasn't a play action. K9 comes across the formation right to left. Geno flips it to him. It's considered a pass, so no one completes there. It's a 1-yard completion, easy one. And the coolest part about this play is you have your center, Olu, number 51, pulling alongside left guard Laken Tomlinson. Now, on the sake of this play, it's unfortunate because if Laken's able to just get in his way, put a body on him, you're talking about 5 yards or more for K9, or maybe he even finds a way to score. I don't know. K9 is pretty incredible, but number 56 was able to get low, making Laken Tomlinson miss, and it allows for just a 1-yard gain. And in my head, I'm like, oh my gosh, that was Ryan Grubb. That was beautiful. I like the design. I liked how you have 2 pulling guys, 300, that's 600 pounds of beef pulling, and you just need one dude to connect. And we're talking about that was a great executed play. Ken scores, whatever the case may be. So that is one that I'm like, yeah, if they can just, it looks good on film. I like that play. Run it again, Ryan. Run it again. Try it again. I know Mike is up and down with the screens. The Jets sniffed out the tunnel screen. It didn't work for JSN this past week, but hey, I like this idea. I like this play. Keep it in the playbook. Run it again. Do not treat it like the orbit motion we saw against the Detroit Lions eons ago, and you haven't run that since. Don't know why that's the case. The second play, it's in the third quarter. Seahawks lead 21-16. And K9, you know what he gets, guys? He gets 10 yards. And it was just a simple play. It wasn't anything creative, as I just mentioned with the previous play. This was a simple, everybody does their job. Now, I will admit, Quentin Williams wasn't on the field, number 95. They had backup defensive tackle. But you know what? That's fine. The Seahawks did their job and they executed. So on this play, you have your left guard, number 770, Tomlinson, and center Olu doubling number 96, Leonard Taylor. Cool. He's doubled. There's a lane there. To your right side, you got Abe Lucas and guard Satoa Satawa. Oh my gosh, number 63. I'm done chopping up his name.
I'll get the pronunciation for you.
Professionalism. Thank you, Mike. Number 63. These two double defensive tackle Solomon Thomas. And then the coolest part is number 63 climbs to the next level, which is what, guys? The linebackers. And he pancakes number 56, Quincy Williams, springing K9 for that 10-yard gain. That was, yay, that is some positives. And it's simple stuff, right? I know it's the easiest thing they can do, but seeing that on film lets you know that, okay, they're making moves in the right direction. They were running the football. And as Mike mentioned, well, actually, this is all off wax, but me and Mike were talking about that drive that led to that 4th and 1 where they don't do nothing. Well, up until that point, they were running the ball pretty effectively. They were moving the rock, which was nice to see. And in the run game, guys were doing their jobs, as Mike Macdonald has mentioned a lot. Hat on a hat, guys winning their one-on-ones. Well, this specific play, the guys won their matchups. Number 63, Mike, how you say his name, man?
All right, I got the pronunciation for you. Sautawa Laumea.
Laumea climbs up to the second level and gets a pancake. And you can see he's just pumped. He's pumping his fist. He's excited because that was a huge play. And that just instills confidence. And I'm hoping that they build on from this week. Can Kim Walker get 80 yards on 12 carries? Like that should, oh, damn, Mike, I saw them eyes. But based on the film, again, I want to go back to, hey, penalties. They cleaned that up. I only gave up 3 sacks. The last sack on that 4th and 1, that was the bad play call. Don't do that. So 2 sacks in theory, and they were both on using their best, the Jets having their best pass rusher beat the Seahawks' best O-lineman. That happens sometimes. It's a wash. Cool. And then execution. I mentioned the jet sweep toss play or jet sweep play to K9. That only got 1 yard, but I love the design of it. I thought it was creative, and it was something new. Because as I mentioned before, when they send K9 in motion, 9 times out of 10, the ball ain't going to him. All right? And that's fine. And then obviously the second play and execution that I pointed out is just the fact that they run a quick play to the right. It's an ISO play. Guys double, move guys out the way. You have number 63. Say his name again, Mike.
Man, you're going to make me have to get it right. I was getting the pronunciation for you. Sautawa Laumea.
Ooh, look at that. Just rings off the tongue. Gets a pancake block, and that is some positive signs. So again, when I heard Mike Macdonald on his coaching show talking about we did a lot of good things, he wasn't blowing smoke. They did a lot of good things. And those are just some of the things that I pointed out in one big thing as the Seahawks beat the New York Jets 26-21.
I was laughing. You mentioned that. I was laughing. I was reading the rest of the pronunciation guide because I never really look at it because, I mean, I usually know how to say everybody's name.
Yeah.
It's so funny. I feel like, man, this is why I type JSN because you can really botch his name so bad and get in trouble at work.
Oh, yeah.
If you just like, there's some potential with the spelling of his name and even the pronunciation is just like you can just you're a key slip away, you're a finger slip away from getting an email from HR. You mess up Jackson Smith and Jigba's name. Also, I was laughing at they have Reek Willen in the pronunciation guide. It just says Reek.
Can't mess that up.
Well, I guess how else could you pronounce Reek? Rick? Like if you saw RIQ, like I would just yeah.
You say Rick, man. I'm questioning your reading comprehension and reading skills.
They have Derek Young in here in the pronunciation guide as well. It's Reek.
There you go.
D-U-H? Yeah, D-U-H and then Reek, and they have that right under Reek. So it's like yeah, it's kind of interesting there. Jalen Sundell's in here. Laken Tomlinson's in here. I wouldn't have thought about that. Interestingly, it's I wouldn't know how else to
lock in. Like lock in.
I guess you can call him locking. Yeah, I'm not sure.
Tomlinson.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, I don't. The other ones make sense. Tyrese, Boye Mafe. Yeah, pretty much all the Samoans and the Africans. Pretty much. I mean, that's what it is. Boye, Chena, Olu. They all. I think they're all Nigerian. I think. And then South Tower, obviously, Polynesian. Yeah.
Easy though.
Olu Timmy is not. That is that should be in here. But yeah, I never really. And then Travis Gibson's in here for some reason. So is Jalen Sundell.
Travis is not common.
And Chris Stoll is in here as well, and it just says Stoll. STOL. That's what I was. See, now you're laughing too. That is what I was laughing at, because I never really peeped the pronunciation guide. It is kind of interesting how they decide which names could potentially be botched, and I guess I'm kind of looking at the rest of the roster. Yeah, I guess you couldn't. You're not going to really mess up anybody else's name here. Yeah, Rayshawn. Could you mess up Rayshawn if you don't know? No, I feel like that's pretty. That's pretty
You
simple.
can't mess up Ray and Sean. How you gonna mess that up?
That's true. Yeah, everything else seems pretty simple. Devin Witherspoon's in here because it could be Devon, so that makes
Yeah, that
sense.
was a question, especially how it's spelled Devon. Is it not Devon? So
Yeah, I
maybe
think I might have called him Devon on draft night when they first drafted him, just because I didn't know. But anyway, just call him Spoon. But yes, that's why I was laughing. Not at the O line. I actually agree this week that this was a really good. This was a decent O line game. I'm with you. I'm with you this week.
yeah, Mike
I
poo-pooed
think
me last week. My man was like, I don't know, man. I respect it though. Good optimism, but
they
yeah,
were
no.
they did run the ball a lot better until the goal line. Like I think I'm gonna have to write about their short yardage stuff because it was just I tweeted some plays. It was just frustrating to watch, and it's not just the O line too. Like it's just like Ken's got to hit these holes better. Grubb's got to call better plays. There's he has to decide. Like you mentioned, he has to decide between whether to be arrogant or creative. Like sometimes it's like, all right, let's do something that gets them flowing one way and we do something else. And then sometimes it's just let's just get a hat on hat and move guys off the ball. He chose the latter on the goal line, and boy, did that not work. that, that did not work. It worked on 3rd and 1 to win the game, though. So I guess how much can you nitpick? The answer is a lot. A lot. That is what I shall do this week. But I agree with you. I agree. Today was a better O-line day. And yeah, if your penalties are on a holding call on Abe and a false start on a rook, you're doing a rook on the road in his first start. Like it could be worse. You could be the Jets. They had 8 penalties in the 4th quarter alone. That's it could. That is an unserious organization. But otherwise, I'm with you this week. I'm fully with you. I was halfway. Now I'm this week. I'm all the way there. I think you also want to see I think you're fighting for a playoff spot in our fantasy league, and I think don't you have Ken
Unfortunately,
in that league? So I think you want to see Ken get the ball. I think that's part of it.
I need a touchdown, bro.
Yeah, you have this desire to see Ken get busy because it helps you which I understand. I
mean, I
can't.
just cut Christian McCaffrey. No point in keeping him.
Yeah, and I've already clinched in that league, so maybe that's why I don't have these.
If I already clinched in that league,
I'm
good.
sorry. You know what? No one cares about our fantasy teams. You know what they care about? Looking at this matchup. So let's segue to getting our guest, the first timer on the Seahawks Man to Man podcast, to look at the Seahawks-Cardinals rematch, a big game for both teams in the standings statistically. Like the loser of this is going to have some ground to make up. I don't have all the numbers in front of me. I'll have it later this week. But without further ado, here's our conversation previewing Seahawks-Cardinals this week with Theo Mackie of the Arizona Republic. All right, it is that time where we talk to someone who knows the opponent far better than we do. Making his debut to the Seahawks Man to Man podcast to preview Seahawks-Cardinals, the rematch, is Theo Mackie. He covers the Cardinals for the Arizona Republic. Welcome to the Seahawks Man to Man podcast, sir. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely, man.
You're new to the show. Welcome. Tell us a little bit before we talk about your alma mater real fast. Just how long you been, where'd you come from before this and how long you been on this beat in Arizona?
Yeah, so I've been out here in Arizona for 3 years, but I was covering baseball doing the Diamondbacks before this. So this is my first year on the Cardinals beat, and it's been a fun one. They've, back-to-back 4-win seasons. This year already much, much better than that. So it's been enjoyable.
Yeah, you're showing up right when they're winning. Look at you. Good for you.
It's great. It's great. I mean, there's when you get to December and you're covering a 4-13 team, I imagine it gets kind of brutal. So I'm happy that they're in contention and there's interesting stuff to talk about every week as we'll get into.
Oh yeah. And you are a Michigan alum. I'm very surprised you don't have any not memorabilia, just anything in your background. You got to have something nearby. This is your week.
If I turn my camera a little bit, you would see a million bobbleheads, including some Michigan basketball bobbleheads, actually. But it has been a glorious week. I was just Saturday afternoon, as I was like flying to Minnesota, I was just on Twitter liking every single tweet that was on my timeline, just making fun of Ohio State. It just, man, to have a season like that and then get the win at the end of it, it's none of the previous 11 games matters. It's so glorious.
Oh yeah, something about rivalry week, man. It was a lot of flag planting and fighting on Saturday. Yeah, you could see how much it means.
They couldn't win on the field, so they had to try to stop us from planting the flag afterward.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. Love a little trash talk. And then they moved we both went to Washington. Chris and I went to Washington State. Shout out Jalen Thompson and the Cardinals. They moved our rivalry game with Washington. Now it's all like it's in like September because they abandoned us for the Big 12 or the Big 10. So we won, but there's something about winning that game late in the year when it's the end. You're either ending one team season or just taking the wind out of the sails of another team's season, like you guys did with Ohio State. So
yeah, it's sad having all those rivalries messed up.
Yeah, although if they're gonna be fighting all weekend, everybody was scrapping on Saturday.
Yeah, it was fun.
It was great. All right, let's talk a lot about this matchup. A big one for both teams. It was first place game last time, and nothing really has changed in that regard. Both teams really need this. The Cardinals perhaps statistically more than the Seahawks, since they would have been swept by their rival. But just looking at just Arizona's view of this, ahead of the last matchup, as you know, they're rolling high. I think 4 in a row, cruising, defense playing well, offense playing well. Since then, 2 losses in a row, games that I'm sure they thought they should have won, particularly this Minnesota one in week 13. So my question to you is, how has the mood or maybe the tenor of the team changed, if at all, in light of the last 2 losses?
I think the overall mood is still pretty positive. This is a team that had won 4 games in back-to-back seasons, now in contention in December. I think the mood is positive. Now, I will say Sunday after the game, the mood was different than it had been after any other loss. It was just, for those who weren't following along closely, the Cardinals were up 19-6 late. They were up 6 with 2 minutes left and let the Vikings drive the whole field for a game-winning touchdown. Like, in that locker room, guys were really down after the game, really frustrated. But I think overall, they know season's not over. There's 5 games left. There are hugely important games left, starting with this one. I don't think that overall there's like this sense of doom and gloom yet. Now, if they lose this week, that might change.
I like the yet. I have to say 3 in a row.
This week is it's everything for the Cardinals.
What were they? So, obviously they lost and they were upset, but was there something about just blowing a lead that was particularly frustrating?
Yeah, it was just the feeling of like they had so many opportunities. Guys on both offense and defense were like, man, our unit let the team down basically. And it was, the offense got down to the 4-yard line and couldn't punch it in for what would have been a game-winning touchdown, and then got the ball back again with 1:15 left. Just 3 timeouts, just needed to drive for a field goal, couldn't do it. And then the defense allowed 17 points on the last 3 drives. The Vikings got the ball back with 3:20 left and drove the full field with 1 timeout for a touchdown. Anytime a defense knows that all they have to do is hold you out of the end zone and they can't do it, they're going to be frustrated. But there were a lot of missed opportunities. The Cardinals outgained the Vikings by 130 yards on the road in Minnesota, loud environment, played really well, and couldn't win the game. So it was a very, very stinging loss.
Wow. Yeah. No, that was brutal. I wasn't watching it in real time. I think they were playing at the same time as the Seahawks.
Yeah,
they were caught up on it, and I was like, ooh, that's tough. I saw the Shaquille Griffin. That's what made me look at it. Shaquille Griffin, Seahawks legend, picked off Kyler. I was like, oh. What? Look at Shaquille still doing his thing, but I could see that would be frustrating. They're blowing a lead like that on the road in a very important game. Let's go to James Conner. It was a focus of the Seahawks game plan in the last time around. He proceeded to then have 8 yards. And then got the bag after that. Congrats to him with a little 2-year extension. Shout out to his agent, man. You getting paid after having 8 yards.
Yeah.
Not to say the sample size doesn't matter, but the timing was I got a little chuckle out of that. But James had come into the Seahawks game pretty hot, just as Kyler did as well, who we'll get to. Since then, just 76 yards on 24 carries and no rushing touchdowns in the last 2 games for James. I think you would agree he's probably been very central to their offense, whatever word you want to use, the engine, the heart, whatever football cliche is going around these days. But what's going on with James right now?
Well, the Seahawks game was different. The offensive line just didn't get any push. It was just, the offensive line against the Seahawks was really poor, both in the run and pass games. So I kind of think that was an aberration. This Vikings game, I didn't think it was particularly bad. I mean, he didn't get completely untracked like he sometimes does. He didn't have a big game, but I thought he was fine. But you're right. Yeah, I mean, he is the focal point of this team. The one thing I will say is Kyler passed through 45 passes against the Vikings in a game where it's not like the Cardinals were playing a ton of catch up. That is probably a little bit too much too much passing. That the Cardinals would like to be more balanced, and that might have played into some of their red zone struggles that really cost them that game. But I don't think there's anything wrong with James Conner right now. I think it was a 1-game aberration where the offensive line really struggled against Seattle.
So the first matchup against the Cardinals, Trey McBride had a raid with the Seahawks.
He is a beast.
And a player that had more so a quiet game was Marvin Harrison Jr. How do you expect the Cardinals to try to balance those two in a pivotal game where they need James Conner to be able to run the football? They want to get McBride involved, and they want to get their number one, their big pick overall, 4th overall, Marvin Harrison, the football as well. How are they going to balance all of that and still try to defeat the Seahawks, whose defense has definitely turned the corner?
Yeah, I mean, in the passing game, the in press conferences and stuff, the two guys that they talk about being the focal point are Marvin Harrison Jr. and Trey McBride. But it's pretty clear, actually, watching them and not just listening to them, that Trey McBride is the focal point of this offense. And it makes sense. Like this past game against Minnesota, the Vikings are a really good team at creating pressure. The Cardinals had struggled, as we all saw, with pressure against Seattle. So how do they balance that? Well, get the ball out quick, get the ball to Trey McBride. They haven't been able to unlock that downfield passing game to Marvin Harrison Jr. The one time that they do, weirdly, I don't have a good explanation for it, but it's in the end zone. Like in the end zone, Marvin Harrison Jr. has been unbelievable. He's been everything they could have possibly expected. Had another great end zone catch for a touchdown this week. From the 5-yard line to the 5-yard line, he's just, kind of been okay, not kind of what you would have hoped for. So yeah, it leaves Trey McBride as the number one option. And teams have seemed to take away the deep ball and let the Cardinals beat them shallow with McBride. I don't fully understand that. Like that Seahawks game, I imagine Seahawks fans are frustrated. Why is no one within 15 yards of Trey McBride? I don't understand why teams let the Cardinals do that, because he's their best weapon.
No, that's fair, because when I watch the game, it's always been the running joke with the Seahawks defense. They just don't cover tight ends. Yeah. And coming in, Mike mentioned that Trey's pretty nice, man, and he did showcase his skills. He was open quite a bit. So I imagine he'll get a lot more, dare I say, respect from the Seahawks DBs and linebackers. They're going to focus in on him and try to slow him down. I did want to talk about Leonard Williams, because he is coming off 2 of his best games of his career, back-to-back weeks. Are the Cardinals feeling a little pressure trying to slow him down, just because he has been dominant the past 2 games? And I know their offensive line didn't do a good job the first matchup, but I can only imagine how heightened the presence of, hey, number 99, we have to know where he is at all times.
Yeah, I mean, I think, the Cardinals saw it firsthand, how much of a game wrecker he can be. The one thing that might help them a little bit, that game against Seattle last time, it was Jonah Williams, their right tackle. His first game back since he got hurt in the first quarter of week 1. And he wasn't bad by any means, but there was a little bit of rustiness, a few plays where it looked like he and the right guard, Tristan Colon, weren't quite in sync. So the offensive line took a step forward this week against Minnesota. They didn't allow a sack. I think that the offensive line will be better than it was 2 weeks ago in Seattle. The other thing is the crowd noise. They really struggled with the crowd noise each of the last 2 games. Against Seattle, they didn't have their protections right a couple times. And then against Minnesota, they kept having a bunch of false starts. Being back home again, the offensive line should be a little bit better. But yeah, they've got to have a plan for Williams, because they did not do enough to slow him down 2 weeks ago, and it was hugely impactful.
Was that your first time in the Viking Stadium?
It was my first time both in Seattle and Minnesota stadiums. And both times I was, well, you hear so much about the Seattle crowd noise, and I'd been kind of thinking, it's probably a little bit overblown. It was like 3 minutes into the game, I'm like, nope, this noise is not overblown. And then I felt the same way in Minnesota. Both those places were really, really loud.
Yeah, Minnesota is one of my favorite stadiums to be in. I mean, because I'm objective, right? If I was a Seahawks fan, I was like, this would suck. This is loud as hell in here.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, that place, it'll definitely make your center better be on it. All your hard count, your quarterback better be on it. All the snap stuff. Like now that I think about it, I didn't even think about that part of their schedule. Back-to-back games at Seattle and Minnesota is pretty tough on an offensive line.
They were talking about, well, we kind of understand now what we have to do in loud environments, and then they didn't do it. They had, I think it was 4 false starts. So yeah, they didn't deal well enough with the crowd noise. I think it was a legitimate factor in both those games.
No, I mean it makes sense. Detroit played in Arizona, right? So you didn't go there?
Yeah, they played like Buffalo and Green Bay are both loud places, but you don't have that cover like you have in Seattle and Minnesota to kind of trap the noise.
Yeah, and then I bring up Detroit because Detroit is like that as well. Like third down in Detroit. Like if the other team is like a 3rd and 8 or whatever, they get crazy in there. It's definitely hard. It's hard to deal with. Those teams have a real home field advantage here. Let's talk a little bit about Kyler, who I like watching. Also, I'm hope you're right about James Conner. It was a little bit of aberration. My fantasy team needs that. I know no one cares about Mike's fantasy team. It's fine, but Mike cares. So Mike will bring it up because he is the host of the show. But yeah, Kyler, much similar to James, came in hot as well. Like came into the Seahawks game hot, and since then not so hot. 24 of 37 passing against the Seahawks, 285 yards. 133 of that to Trey McBride. Goddamn. No touchdowns, at least not to his team. Through an interception that was returned for a touchdown. Surprisingly, I think only 1 carry for 9 yards in the Seahawks game, and then comes back in the Vikings game, 31 of 45. Like you mentioned, a lot of passing attempts in what was a close game or that they had the lead in. 260 yards, 1 touchdown to Maserati Marv, and then 2 picks, including the one that ended the game, 2 carries for 49 yards. So I rattle off all those stats to ask the very similar question to when we talked about James Conner. What's up with Kyler right now?
I thought in the Seahawks game, he really, again, we keep talking about the pressure, and part of that is on the O-line. I didn't think Kyler did a good job of dealing with the pressure. Like this season has been better than he's been throughout his career. Obviously, his disadvantage is he's a shorter quarterback. It's harder to stand in the pocket against pressure. This season, he's made serious strides with that. I didn't think he did a good job of that against Seattle. He just, there were times when he had a pocket he could have stepped into. He kind of got skittish, ran into pressure, kind of made things worse for himself, really struggled with that. This Minnesota game, I didn't think he was bad necessarily, almost similar to Conner, not necessarily bad, just didn't have that huge impact. And I think it's that they haven't been able to unlock the downfield passing game. It's like these short passes to McBride. And I was talking earlier, well, why don't teams focus more on McBride? Maybe they are saying, well, McBride can have 120 yards against us as long as we're not giving up the 50-yard play over the top to Marvin Harrison. And that kind of seems to be working for teams. But on this, flip side of that is the Cardinals had 406 yards of offense. Kyler had, however many you just said, 250 plus passing yards, a decent game with his legs, did much better. Against the Seahawks, he could not find a way to escape pressure and run, which is his best way of beating pressure. And against the Vikings, he did much better at actually escaping pressure, getting downfield, running, and kind of using that to beat pressure. So I don't know. I thought he was good, not great. If they win that game, we're not talking about Kyler struggled. And to me, it came down to the red zone execution. I think they got to the red zone 6 times and scored 1 touchdown. That's partially penalties, partially a lack of execution on little small moments. Partially Jonathan Gannon made some questionable 4th down decisions. But I didn't think Kyler was bad in this game. I thought against the Seahawks, he struggled with the pressure, but I thought he made a step forward with that against Minnesota.
Yeah, just even just box score watching with that Vikings game. You look at what's the kicker's first name? Last name Ryland? What's his first name?
Chad Ryland.
Chad has a 32-yard field goal, 31-yard field goal, 24-yard field goal. All those like that was the end of the. Looks like it might have been the end of the half.
That was the end of the half, yeah.
Right, yeah. And then you exclude that, get a 40-yard field goal, at the end of the game, a 23-yard field goal. Like these aren't booming kicks. Like you said, they were getting close. And I think you brought up something that is interesting for all of us to think about coming into this game, that it does seem like teams have decided that if you have to decide between two evils, Trey is the lesser of the two, perhaps. So I think he almost went for 100 yards. I was playing him in fantasy, so I know that. He almost went for 100 yards in that Vikings game, and they still lost. So I think he's gone over 200-something yards over the last 2 weeks, and they've produced one offensive touchdown in those 2 weeks.
Yeah, and you look at it. I mean, he had 12 receptions on 12 targets, but only 96 yards. So that's. I'll do the quick math here. That's 8 yards per catch. Like, it's not destroying you. It's not. You're not giving up huge plays that are really wrecking things. So yeah, as you said, it might be the lesser of two evils, but I don't know. It still seems like if a guy has 230 yards over 2 games on 15 catches, he's doing a little bit too much damage.
Well, it'll be interesting to see how the Seahawks play him for the second time, because I know Mike Macdonald gave him some praise, and I think he used the term, he's a dude's dude or something in that regard.
Yeah.
And like, he can ball. We have to really lock in. Perhaps they didn't lock in like they should have, because he had 12 for 133, but at the end of the day, they had a W result, so they were able to, okay, we got the win here, but how do we go about game playing for him next week or 2 weeks from now? So I'm excited to see on Sunday how he does in that regard, just because I know the Seahawks are going to be like, all right, we know what you're capable of doing. We've seen it on film multiple times, so that should be a fun matchup for sure. Last one I got for you. Do you have a good Thanksgiving, Theo?
Had a very nice Thanksgiving. Yeah, I was here in Arizona, but I was able to get together with some friends after Cardinals practice. So just a slightly unusual day of work.
So I'm guessing no turkey bowl for you then, because you was working.
No turkey bowl, but it's really nice out, and I would love to get around and throw the football around. It's been too long.
See, we might. When do you fly into Seattle?
They're coming here.
Oh, I'm bugging. This would have been nice. This would have been a great time to have you out there with us. But okay, that's what's up.
You should have hit me up 2 weeks ago.
No, I don't know.
That's my fault.
I blame Mike.
Yeah, that's cool. I'll take that. I will say I am excited to, after braving the New York cold last week. They had the Jets.
Yeah, I'm not hearing any complaining compared to how Minnesota was.
Yeah. Oh, it was bad. It was bad up there too.
No, it was 10 degrees when I was walking to get dinner on Saturday night after I landed.
Yo, you know what? Actually, I don't even know why I knew that, because my layover was in Minnesota coming home, and there was snow all in the airport.
Yeah.
Just snow everywhere. I was like, yo, this is.
It reminded me of what I did not like about going to college in Michigan.
Oh yeah, no, that sounds absolutely awful there. All right, let's close this out, Chris. Let's get our over under. Let's get our prediction. This is a fascinating one. Very interesting coaching matchup for both staffs to see how they handle playing another team twice in 3 weeks. And both of them have a guy that you got to circle in Trey on the Arizona side and then Leonard on the Seahawks side. Like, if you don't circle them, if you did circle them last time, you didn't do a good enough job. So now you have to without breaking the structure of whatever you want to do well, I think is the challenge for both teams there. You don't want to just let's stop Trey, and then Michael Wilson goes for like 200 yards, something like that, So same thing with the Seahawks. You don't want to overcompensate and stop Leonard Williams, and then Boye Mafe gets to Kyler like 3 times. So will be a very interesting game in that regard. Chris, you've cooked up the over-under. You ready for that?
First of all, do you think that's reasonable, Mike? I know I talked a lot about the Seahawks struggling with tight ends, but I feel like that number is just right.
Yeah, this is a catch is a little high, but yard sounds about right. Let's go with both. Let's do it. All right, Theo.
I'm gonna drop them 1. So here's what we'll do. All right, enough of that. Theo, here's your chance for some over and under. All right, we got Trey McBride, 8.5 catches and 80.5 yards. Right now, journalists are at 500 at 5-5. So let's keep the streak above 500. Let's keep it rolling. So what do you got, Theo?
Those are high numbers for a tight end. I'm going under. I know he's hit the over in the last 2, but as you said, I think the Seahawks will be really aware of his threat And those are big numbers.
Those are Brock Bowers numbers, buddy.
They are Brock Bowers numbers.
No, Brock Bowers. I'm just saying a Raiders show, but part of the reason I know Trey McBride's number is because I was looking up some offensive rookie of the year stuff, and I was like, Brock Bowers has what now?
yeah, he should probably be the offensive rookie of the year, but it'll go to a quarterback, I'm sure.
Yeah, it'll be Jaden Daniels for sure. So we got that written down, Chris. He's going under on both.
We are all set.
All right, and then let's get our game prediction, Teo. Let's do it. We're going with Cardinals are -2.5. They're the favorite here. All right, what you got? Who's going to win? Give us a score on Sunday.
I think that the Cardinals are going to win. I think the way they played in Minnesota was really encouraging. Again, gaining the Vikings by 130 yards. They were the better team on the road against, the Seahawks are a good team. The Vikings are probably a half tier above the Seahawks. Yes, it was a very frustrating loss, but I thought it was a really encouraging performance on both sides of the ball overall. That doesn't make anything feel better on Monday morning. But as you look forward to the next week, I thought it was an encouraging performance. I think they'll learn some things from how they struggled with the Seahawks pressure. I think being at home with all the stuff that we talked about the offensive line will make a difference. And I think they sneak this one out, and the division comes down to the last 4 games.
Ooh, give us a score.
Oh, yep.
Score. I think it'll be close. I'm going to go I don't think it'll be super high scoring, something like 21-17 or something like that. That's probably the under on the team total, or on the game total, I would assume.
It is. It's under 40. It's 46.5.
So yeah, I would go under that.
All right. Write that down, Chris. So if the Cardinals do win, we can direct Seahawk fans to yell at Teo and not us. It's good.
They're welcome to do so.
Yeah, we have the guests make the picks. I do like it though. Interesting. Interesting game for both sides, man. And last game really showed how small the margins are. Actually, honestly, the last two Seahawks wins really show how small the margins can be. Like, you can argue without their pick sixes, those games probably go very differently. I know they go differently last week against the Jets. In that Cardinals game, we almost saw it go differently just because the Seahawks had a different play on 4th and 1. They just got a regular old PBU, which is great, but that's not a momentum swinger like the timeout call ended up leading the pick 6 to be. Very impressive defensive performance by the Seahawks in that regard. And a game-changing play. Pick 6s are bad. They're bad for the offense.
This is true.
Theo, you have the floor now. If you want to plug anything, Blue Sky, Instagram, Twitter, any podcasts, stories you have coming out this week, because Seahawks fans are going to be following you, reading you. What you got? The floor is yours.
Yeah, you can follow me on Twitter. It's Theo_Mackie, THEO_MACKIE, or the Arizona Republic, which is azcentral.com. That's where my stories are at.
All right, there we go.
Thanks for having me on, guys. Really appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Thank you. We really appreciate you giving us some insight on the Cardinals, being our guest on the show this week. Thank you guys for tuning in to the Seahawks Man to Man podcast. Make sure you like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Seahawks Man to Man is the name of the channel. That is Seahawks Man, the number 2 man. Follow us on Instagram, TikTok. I figured out the Blue Sky thing, so my handle is the same there. I'm not posting a ton, but I figured it out. Until then, our next show will be our YouTube only exclusive. We'll drop on Friday, going over some film of the Jets-Seahawks game, and then we'll come back with our post-game show of Seahawks-Cardinals, a game that, according to Theo, the Cardinals are going to win. We'll catch you guys later. Peace.